The no contact rule is often sold as a magic button for regaining control, but for most men, it's nothing more than a temporary mask. You think that by vanishing, cutting off the texts, the calls, and the late-night social media checks, you are suddenly the one in the driver's seat. You're playing a game of chicken, hoping that your absence will be so loud it forces her to reach out. And while it's true that silence creates a vacuum where curiosity can grow, if your heart is still racing every time your phone vibrates, you haven't actually gone anywhere. You're just hiding. Silence by itself isn't a strategy. It's often just a delayed reaction to the pain of being rejected. The trap lies in the why behind your silence. If you are staying quiet specifically so she will notice you're gone, you are still completely tethered to her. You aren't moving forward, you're just holding your breath. You might be physically distant, but mentally, you're still sitting in a dark room, staring at a screen, waiting for a single notification to tell you that you still matter. This kind of silence isn't strength. It's a performance. It's a tactical withdrawal designed to get a specific result, which means she still dictates your emotional state. If she doesn't reach out, your strength collapses. To truly break free, you have to move past the illusion of the silent treatment and reach for emotional sovereignty. This is the point where your peace of mind is no longer a hostage to her decisions. Real power doesn't come from pretending you don't care. It comes from actually reaching a state where you don't need her reaction to feel whole. When you stop using silence as a weapon to get her back and start using it as a tool to find yourself, the game ends. You stop being a performer waiting for applause and start being a man who is grounded in his own reality. The core difference between tactical silence and emotional neutrality is the difference between a manipulation and a mindset. Most men use tactical silence as a tool to get a reaction. It's essentially a loud, aggressive way of saying, I am ignoring you, so you'll feel bad. Even if you aren't sending texts, your energy is still shouting. This kind of silence feels heavy and resentful. It carries a distinct tension that others can sense instantly. Because it's a performance, it actually invites a power struggle. She feels the pressure you're putting on her through your absence, and her natural instinct is to resist that pressure or play the game back. You haven't actually moved away. You've just stepped behind a curtain while still peeking out to see if she's watching. Emotional neutrality, on the other hand, is a complete internal transformation. It is the shift from, I am refusing to speak to you, to, I no longer feel the need to move in response to you. This isn't about being a cold person or acting like a robot. It's about being so grounded in your own reality that her actions, whether she texts, stays silent, or moves on, don't throw you off balance. When you reach this state, you stop being a satellite orbiting her life. You become the center of your own world again. This change is subtle, but profound because it removes the emotional pull she used to feel from you. When that invisible tether snaps, you become truly unpredictable. Not because you're acting erratic, but because you are no longer behaving according to the old script of the relationship. This calm, dignified uncertainty is what actually unsettles people. When a man is silent but clearly pained, he is predictable. His silence is just a cry for help. But when a man is neutral, he is a mystery. She can no longer sense your desperation or your hidden hope for a reconciliation. You aren't withdrawing to punish her. You are recalibrating because you genuinely value your own peace more than you value her validation. This lack of emotional noise creates a vacuum. Without the drama of a struggle, she is forced to sit with her own thoughts rather than reacting to yours. That steady, unshakable presence is a much more powerful statement of high value than any calculated no-contact period could ever be. Breaking the cycle of dependency starts with a hard realization. True strength isn't about how long you can go without sending a text. It's about how little you depend on her response to feel okay. Most men mistake withholding communication for power. But if you are still checking your phone every 10 minutes, you haven't gained any power. You've just changed your tactics. Real independence happens when you stop building your day around her potential reaction. When you stop posting specific stories just to see if she views them, or tailoring your life to send a message to her, you aren't just playing the game better. You are walking away from the table entirely. You stop being a player in a drama and start being the director of your own life. This is where most men get stuck in suppressed attachment. They treat the no contact rule like a prison sentence, marking off the days on a calendar and waiting for the moment they are released back into her life. They are physically silent, but internally, they are screaming. They are fighting a constant, exhausting tug of war with their own urges to reach out, to check in, or to see if she's moved on. True Stoicism isn't about that loud, painful struggle. It's a much quieter, more peaceful experience. It's the feeling of finally returning home to yourself, reclaiming the mental space and energy you've been outsourcing to someone else. It's the moment you realize that your happiness is no longer her responsibility. When you finally drop your end of that internal rope, something profound happens on her end. She loses emotional access to you. Even during a breakup, many women can still feel a man's emotional orientation toward them. They can feel that the door is still unlocked and that he's standing right behind it, waiting. But when you become truly independent, she senses that the door isn't just closed. It's no longer being guarded. You aren't standing there anymore. You've moved on to other rooms, other projects, and a different future. That quiet, unannounced withdrawal of your energy is much more impactful than a blocked number because it signals that you are no longer waiting. And nothing hits harder than the realization that a man has truly, peacefully outgrown the need for you. The power of being unaffected lies in the psychology of relevance. Human beings are naturally wired to track the people they have emotional influence over. We want to know where we stand in the social ranking of someone else's mind. When you were in the thick of the relationship or the breakup, she was your sun. Everything you did revolved around her. But when that influence suddenly vanishes and you become steady, calm, and unreachable, it creates a massive sense of cognitive dissonance in her mind. Her brain struggles to reconcile the old you who was desperate for her attention with the new you who seems perfectly fine without it. This triggers a series of internal questions. What did I miss? Why isn't he reacting? Has he found something more important than me? Because you are no longer reacting to her, you become a puzzle she can't solve. This shift isn't a mind game or a cheap manipulation tactic. It is the ultimate sign of emotional maturity. You have reached a point where you stop using her behavior as a mirror to see your own worth. If she stays silent, you don't feel small. If she dates someone else, you don't feel replaced. If she reaches out, you don't feel saved. You've stopped looking for clarity from someone who is clearly confused, and you've stopped waiting for her to give you permission to be happy. By stepping out of the exhausting loop of pursuit and withdrawal, you effectively break the rhythm she's been using to manage you. You are no longer dancing to her tune, and that disruption is deeply jarring to someone who is used to having emotional leverage over you. Ultimately, the most attractive and unsettling thing a man can be is unpredictable through his own stability. A man who needs validation is easy to read and easy to control. He is a known variable. But a man who is internally free is a powerhouse. You aren't being unaffected to hurt her or to win her back. You are unaffected because you have finally realized that your internal state is your own responsibility. When you stop being a reaction to her actions, you reclaim your status as the lead character in your own story. This groundedness creates a new kind of gravity, one that doesn't beg for attention, but naturally commands respect, because it is so rare to find a man who doesn't need a woman's approval to feel like he's enough. The shift in hierarchy happens the moment you stop pleading for a fair trial in her mind. After a breakup, most men burn incredible amounts of mental energy trying to be seen correctly. You want her to know your intentions were good, you want her to acknowledge the effort you put in, and you desperately want her to realize exactly what she's losing. This is a trap, because as long as you care about her opinion of you, she remains the judge, and you remain the defendant. The second you release the need to be understood or validated by her, the trial ends. You reclaim your psychological power not by winning the argument, but by leaving the courtroom altogether. You stop performing growth through calculated social media posts or curated life updates intended for her eyes, and you start growing for the only audience that matters, yourself. This is where true discipline replaces emotional performance. A common misconception is that a stoic man is an unfeeling robot, but that couldn't be further from the truth. You will still feel the sting of nostalgia, the weight of disappointment, and the occasional urge to reach out. The difference is that you no longer allow those feelings to steer the ship. You acknowledge the emotion, but you refuse to let it dictate your direction. This internal discipline creates a massive shift in how you are perceived. When she senses that you are no longer auditioning for a role in her life or trying to be chosen, the power dynamic flips. It's not a hierarchy of dominance or alpha posturing. It is a hierarchy of self-respect. You have effectively decided that your own self-concept is more important than her perception of you. By shifting your focus, you are essentially reallocating your most valuable currency, your attention. Instead of investing that energy into a relationship that is no longer paying dividends, you pour it into your own future, your physical health, and your personal purpose. This creates a gravity that is impossible to fake. When you are no longer placing her on a pedestal, you naturally rise to meet your own standards. She will feel this shift because she is no longer the prize you are chasing. She is simply someone from your past, while you have become a man focused on his future. This quiet transition from needing her to honoring yourself is the most profound change a man can make, because a man who respects himself more than he fears losing someone else is a man who can never truly be defeated. Becoming anchored is the final stage of this journey, where the focus shifts entirely away from her and back onto the man you are becoming. Most people treat the no-contact period as a waiting room, a place to sit until she changes her mind. But the real goal was never to make her miss you. It was to ensure that you never abandon yourself again. In the beginning, you were likely in survival mode, just trying to get through the day without spiraling. But as you become anchored, you move into clarity mode. You start choosing yourself through small, non-negotiable daily wins, pushing through a workout when you're tired, sharpening your focus at work, and rediscovering the hobbies and friendships you neglected while you were busy chasing her. Each of these actions is a brick in the foundation of a life that no longer requires her presence to be stable. When you are internally anchored, your peace of mind is no longer at the mercy of a notification. You become a man who is difficult to shake because your roots go deeper than a single relationship. This doesn't mean you've become a cold or unfeeling person. It means you've traded dependency for sovereignty. If she eventually reaches out, you don't panic or feel a rush of desperate relief. Instead, you assess the situation calmly, like a man deciding if a business deal meets his standards. If she never reaches out, you remain equally steady. You aren't waiting for the story to resume because you've already started writing a better one. You've reached the point where you are no longer detached from your emotions, but you are completely detached from the need for her to validate them. This is what it means to truly win. Even if the two of you never speak again, you have gained something more valuable than a second chance. You have gained yourself. You didn't let the pain of the breakup turn you into a bitter, resentful person. You used it as a fire to refine your character. You are finally free from the exhausting cycle of chasing someone who is running, proving your worth to someone who is blind to it, and begging for closure from someone who can't even provide clarity for themselves. You walk away from the experience not as a victim of rejection, but as a man who is internally free, grounded, and ready for a future that is entirely on his own terms.